acknowledging that we stand on the traditional territories of the Nihio, Dene, Nakota Sioux, Anishinaabe, Niitsitapi, and within the Métis homeland under Treaty 6. We do this land acknowledgement because we believe strongly in doing our projects and doing them with reconciliation top of mind. As we expand our projects across Alberta and add more properties in different regions, we'll be adding to our land acknowledgement, including the other treaties. And we want to thank our one of our key board members, Jacqueline Cardinal, for helping us create this land acknowledgement. This is a presentation by the Homestead Investment Cooperative. It's an opportunity to invest in the first building in a portfolio of cooperatively owned Alberta real estate assets, powered by co-working, starting on Edmonton's historic Jasper Avenue. Why did we choose a community investment cooperative model, and why is this important? Well, for from when I started the project in 2014, 2015, I wanted it to be a community-owned real estate asset, and there was lots of ways that we could do that. And as we stabilized the building, we completely gutted it and retrofitted it. And what we did it with a private investment group because it was that type of project can be higher risk. And we stabilized the building. We were looking into different models for community investment, and then COVID hit. And it was coming out of COVID where I decided to really pursue this option. I realized, post-COVID, we need community more than ever. And I really got serious about investigating different community investment models. So the cooperative one came and rose to the top because of the local empowerment piece. It really does give power back to community members for giving them the ability to invest in their backyard. The shared prosperity, giving all members equal voice and say in the direction of the cooperative and where the investment goes. The social impact. So we do already through the co-working business that we have in the existing building. We've had a lot of social impact through the businesses that have come into our building that are either socially minded and give back through their products and services, but also they contribute back to their own communities. But we've helped them grow their businesses and sometimes grow up and out of the building even. But we do have that social impact piece through the co-working aspect, but then also we have connections with social enterprise models across Canada. And through the community investment cooperative model, what we've learned is that there is a lot of social impact happening through the community investment cooperative model across Canada. And the East is quite a bit ahead of us, I would say about 10 years ahead of us. But we are starting to, with projects like this, make an impact in Alberta. Democratic decision making. So one member, one vote. There isn't a special treatment per se in terms of decision making with particular shareholders or anything. Everybody gets a say and one vote at the annual AGM. And there's also the opportunity to get further involved and become a board member and director. The greater political influence. So we already have many well-connected individuals involved through our board, but also as investors. But what we know as politically minded individuals is that when you're doing something new and you need to get barriers like regulatory and policy barriers removed, you need a strong network of influencers and people with those relationships to affect change. And so, down the road, when we're doing an innovative project that might need some barriers removed like that, we know that we'll have the connections to do that. And then long-term vision. We know that, the group that formed this, we know we want to be doing this for a long time. Like myself personally, I want to be invested in this for like the next 20 years at least. I see it as a long-term investment for myself and my family. I don't think commercial real estate's gonna the opportunity to own commercial real estate is just going to get harder and harder as time goes on. So I'm looking at this as an endowment for my children and grandchildren. And, this is not put money in and pull it out in a year's time. We're looking for a 5-year commitment on this investment. So it starts with myself. I mentioned that I got involved in the project around 2014. It was CKUA radio is the building, the old CKUA building on Jasper Ave. It's actually its original name from the early 1900s is the Alberta Block. It was up for sale. CKUA had just moved out. And I saw it as an opportunity as I was just starting my real estate business to purchase a piece of history on Jasper Ave, breathe new life into it. It hadn't had any major investment in it for quite some time. So there was a lot of renovations and improvements to make. And I wanted to position up the building for the next 50 to 100 years and make sure that it was going to remain and not be demolished, and that we would lose another critical piece of our downtown history. So we bought the building with private investors. We gutted it, did a deep energy retrofit, and then brought in all new tenants. And one of the new tenants was a co-working space that I formed with a partner at the time. And that came from me just starting a business and not wanting to be alone, not wanting to do it alone. I wanted to have a community around me, and I had traveled around to different cities in North America and seen what was becoming known as the co-working model and co-working spaces. And I really liked how those spaces help businesses get going, provided a community around you, provided kind of like business supports and social supports, just for getting your business going, whether it's, access to accounting services or legal or just advice in general. And so I knew that that's the kind of space that I wanted to build my business in. Nothing like it really existed at the time in Edmonton. So started the first privately owned co-working space. And that's where Homestead was born. So we had a tiny little space on 109th Street over the Common, just to test the idea and see if a bunch of our friends were interested that had their own businesses, and they were. So then we expanded it into the Alberta block. And that's where we've been operating for the last 10 years. And in addition to that, I also developed other commercial buildings in Edmonton, such as Umferville Block. I was part of uh, Little Brick Cafe. I did a apartment building over by Stadium Station. I was one of the first builders of Blatchford Housing. So, we kind of made our mark in terms of doing innovative, socially minded, sustainable real estate buildings in Edmonton. So I mentioned, post-COVID, really thinking about how to double down on the idea of a community-owned asset and community-owned investment group. Don Iveson was just coming out of his mayoral term, and we were talking about, projects that could really help revitalize downtown Edmonton, but also bring community together, not just in Edmonton, but across the province. I moved actually 5 hours north of Edmonton in 2019. So I actually live now by Fairview, Alberta, in northwestern Alberta. And I was seeing the need for an Alberta-wide business community, investment community that could be doing projects like this across the province. So Don Iveson joined me as one of the founding directors of this project. And then since then, we've added additional board members. We've got Jacqueline Cardinal. She was actually one of the first members of Homestead Co-working in the Alberta Block space. She's founder and CEO at Naheowen, Storytelling and Education Social Enterprise. We got Kyla Kazale, who's co-owner of Bamboo Ballroom, Bamboo Stockroom, The Common, 9910, and Foo's Repair Shop. So Foo's Repair Shop is one of our biggest tenants in the building. When that space became vacant a few years ago, I think it's actually coming up on 3 years now. I approached Kyla's group because I knew that they were very high performing operators in downtown Edmonton for restaurants and retail space. And I knew that I really wanted a top performing tenant in the building, as well as they were winning multiple awards for best food and venue. So they joined us, and Kyla sits on our board. Heather Kirschbaumer, she's founder and CEO at Golden Acre Seeds. She runs a fourth generation family farm in the Peace Country and has extensive board experience. We met up in Fairview. We both live near Fairview. And she was asking about what I was doing in Edmonton. And I told her about the project, and she loved the idea. She loves the idea of investing in a market that she's not familiar with and diversifying her investment portfolio because she does invest in a lot of real estate in Northern Alberta, as well as the community that she's tapped into. She's really interested in the investment community that we're building. Marilyn Hooper has over 2 decades of experience in government public relations and community engagement. And she's our mover and shaker. She gets stuff done. She is really, from an administrative perspective, a huge help and a convener, helping bring our community together and run our events. And she's worked with Don Iveson for many, many years, both in mayoral office, but also as his time as city council. And then we also have Clifford Bell. He serves as CEO of Westlock Terminals, a farmer-owned grain terminal co-op north of Edmonton. So he has over 20 years of experience of running a very successful community investment cooperative. So we felt that since we were new, it was very beneficial to have someone of his experience and background on our board. And he's a big believer in downtown Edmonton. He lives in downtown Edmonton as well. Jane Hilderman is an entrepreneurial cross-sector leader with track record of social impact. She currently provides fractional support to foundations and startup nonprofits for short-term strategic initiatives as an independent consultant. And she started first as an investor and then we started doing call outs for getting volunteers to assist with our administration and our events and our communications. And she really stepped up and her strengths came to the forefront very quickly, and she is now our secretary on our board. Nicholas Menon is an engineer with over a decade of experience in billion-dollar capital projects. Nicholas brings a foundation in financial prudence, strategic planning, risk management, and large-scale asset development. He too also started as an investor, but coincidentally actually was in the building, quite a few times over the last 10 years through his volunteer work with Media Art Design Edmonton. So he knew the building well already, and then he saw the opportunity, invested, and then same as Jane, joined our volunteer opportunities and very quickly became a mainstay and is now our treasurer on our board. So that is our board. It is full, and we're very lucky to have such an amazing talent on our board. So a little bit more about the building. I mentioned that it was previously home to CKUA, and that was from the 1950s to 2012. But before that, it was actually built in 1909 with an extension on the back added in 1913. And it was originally home to, I think, the second location of ATB Financial in the province. The first location in Edmonton. It had, when we renovated, it had 5 bank vaults left behind from its bank days. It was home to a furrier at one point during Hudson's Bay trading era. And so it's been a hub for finance, music, and now entrepreneurship on Jasper Avenue. And I mentioned that it went through a deep energy retrofit with new insulation, new roof, new elevator, new mechanical, electrical, windows, structural upgrades, and it was all focused on making sure we have low operational costs. It's currently leased with a 9.8% vacancy, currently appraised at 8.85 million. We are getting a revised appraisal, so we'll be updating this soon. Opportunity to add additional revenue by developing rooftop patio and additional basement square footage. So when we did the renovation in 2014, we upgraded the structure to be able to support a rooftop patio. So the picture in the bottom right-hand corner shows where that rooftop patio could go. That's the building's kind of an L shape because the shorter part that picture is showing is a 4-story 1909 part of the building, and then in the back is a 6-story 1913 addition. So right now you actually walk across the roof to get to the 5th and 6th floors. So we want to turn that into a beautiful rooftop patio and terrace and be able to bring in more revenues with weddings and corporate events and concerts and stuff. So we're very excited about that. So a bit about the market. So commercial real estate vacancies in downtown Edmonton are decreasing. There's few opportunities for small investors and companies to participate in commercial real estate in Edmonton, especially downtown. And we're definitely seeing a huge increase in investment in that direct area right around our building, especially with catalyst projects like Warehouse Park. So that's A huge project that was just opened up a few months ago. Uh, just half a, like you can see it from our building. It's half a block away, just on 106th Street. And it's a beautiful amenity, and it's become a big draw for anyone that works and lives in downtown Edmonton. That is also spurring additional residential development all around that area because it's super close to Grant McEwen, which needs a lot more residential student residences built in the coming years, as well as Beaver Park, which is just to the east of us, just got a major investment and is now opening to the public. So we're seeing some major public investments, but then also private investments are following in the buildings all around them. So our main business model is if we focus on building a strong co-op community, that will attract strong tenants because of our network in our buildings that we own. Strong tenants create a strong building, and then a strong building will give good returns back to a stronger co-op community. So the relationship is very cyclical, and there's an ecosystem that we're building here. As we grow the organization, we will focus on growing the companies and tenants that are in our spaces, which means they'll need more space and more buildings. And then we can go look for more buildings with tenants in hand and have cash flow right away. We'll be creating peer mentorship network opportunities with members and investors. We know we're already making a major contribution to our economic revitalization in downtown Edmonton. We are a hub in downtown Edmonton. You see it when you come to our block. Just all the people and the coffee shops are full all around us, and there's lots of vitality that comes out of our building. Creating wealth for investors and tenants, and that's from the main leases in the building. Expand the model to other communities. So we want to expand this across Alberta and connect with social enterprises across Canada. So how will we build revenue? So I mentioned the main tenant leases in the building are the main source of revenue into the cooperative. Then we'll have other revenues like ticketing for premium and professional events, brokerage fees for spaces tenants graduate to. So that's if we can't grow with the tenants as they outgrow our spaces and they have to be referred to other landlords. We hope to in the future be able to collect brokerage fees, space rentals on future amenities like the rooftop patio, and then future real estate acquisitions. So this is a $9 million deal structure, and we had to create a minimum and maximum raise scenario for our offering memorandum. So scenario one is our maximum raise scenario where we would raise 100% of the capital through private investment. We would then, once we purchase the building, go talk to lenders and place the best refinancing option, which would then allow us to take the funds, some of the funds out of the building and go buy our next group of buildings with input from our investment community. Scenario two is our minimum raise scenario, which is we raise the majority of funds through private investment, but then finance the balance up with a mortgage of up to 4.375 million, achieving leverage. So that works as well and is just a lower or slower expansion path. Our investments are RSP and TFSA eligible, so you can either open a new RSP or TFSA or transfer from an existing one. And that's through the Canadian Workers Co-op Federation, and they hold the RSP and TFSA registrations for all cooperatives across Canada. So they're actually quite a large firm. We have three classes of shares. So Class A membership share, that's a one-time $250 fee, and that's just to join the cooperative. And then you can choose from one of two investment shares, a Class B, which is minimum $10,000 buy-in, and then you can increase it with $1,000 increments, or the Class C, which is a $100,000 minimum buy-in, and you can increase with $5,000 increments. The main difference between the two, other than dollar amount, is that Class C also has an opportunity to have a representative sitting on the board, with up to the maximum of 20% of the board to have Class C representative on the board. And that's just to ensure, when we were talking about attracting those higher net worth individuals that would be looking to invest larger sums of money, they'll have lots of business acumen, real estate experience, and investment experience, and we want to have their input and strategic advice on the key decisions that are being made. So that's why we created that role, that Class C representative on the board. The projected annual returns of at least 6% is based on the current leases in the building, and that doesn't include any appreciation in value of the asset over time because that's too hard for us to predict, and we're not allowed to do that with this type of offering. So a little bit more on the board. So there's 9 directors, so we're full with our current 9 directors that we have. It's one member, one vote at the general meetings for our members. Our founders are serving as the initial board. We fronted all costs to date. These numbers will be updated soon, but yes, I think we're well above $100,000 in costs to date, and we're now probably approaching closer to 400,000, somewhere between 400 to 500,000 in share purchases alone from board members. We do not receive any money for putting the deal together. All we receive is shares in kind for our substantial efforts over the last few years to put this all together. And it's just to keep it was an incentive that we put together because we knew this would be a lot of work, and at times very grinding. And we also wanted to make sure we didn't have high turnover on our board with directors. So we wanted to have that carrot that if we get over the finish line and we close on the deal, that they get some shares in kind for all of their efforts. So what is your role as an investor? So join our community and refer like-minded potential investors, tenants, mentors. Right now, because we're in the last push of our raise, and this is going to be our focus until March, finding investors is #1 priority for everybody because we really want to push and close and finish buying the building. Participate in one member, one vote general meeting. So we did just have a general meeting in November. That was our first big one with, that was just beyond our board members. And that went really well. It was great to meet the members that are joining our investment community, and they are exactly they share the values and the alignment that we were hoping that we would have with our investment community. So it was very exciting to see that come to life and get to talk to individual investors and find out what they're excited about and what we can do in the future. And everybody's very excited about the future with this cooperative. We have raised, now we're actually over, I think technically over 2 million, although so we have in the pipeline, you have a number of investors that are in the works, and it really comes down to who signs the document at the right time. So I know that we have more than 2 million committed. We might have a small window for anyone that wants to get the remaining 2% discount. So what we did was the first 1 million raised, we gave a 4% discount. And then the second million raised, we gave a 2% discount. And that was just to incentivize early adopters and reward them because they're going to have their money in longer than anyone that comes in the last half. But that 2% discount window is rapidly closing because I know we've got people that have we're now over 2 million in our committed amounts. It's just whether or not they've signed their documents or not. Another incentive that we wanted to give to early adopters was the first 100 member investors. So we created the H100 Club, and we're also very quickly coming to the close of this. Just before Christmas, we were at H-88, and then I saw some more investments come in over Christmas. So we're in the 90s now. So we only have a few more spots left for the H100 member investors. That will, the name, and it's very likely that there will be names on a plaque in the lobby area of the building recognizing the H100 Club. That's the first 100 people that got this cooperative off the ground and going. We're also going to provide an H100 keepsake for display in the member's home or office so that they can put that on display and say, I'm a part of this really awesome project. And then other investor perks, and this is open to all investors, is that you get a drop-in pass at Homestead Co-working. So if you want to come down to the building and work out of the co-working space from Monday to Friday, We have office hours from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and we can get you situated. So that's open to all investors, as well as 10% off of food at Foos Repair Shop on the main floor and 20% off of event bookings at Foos Repair Shop. And it's like I mentioned, it's winning every year. It wins awards as best in class in Edmonton for various food offerings and cocktails. So it's a very good experience there. And then we'll be adding more benefits and investor perks as we move along. Because as we're expanding our network, we have other people that have products that they can offer and services that they can offer at discounted rates or for free. So we'll be continuing to build out our investor perks. So this is just an overall summary of the offering terms. I think I touched on most of this. Um, Rights on dissolution, that's proportionate share of net assets after liabilities. Dividends, board of directors issue on investment shares based on annual operating results. So we would have our AGM with our audited financials, and we would announce there what the dividends are for that year. The time horizon, like I mentioned, we're looking for a minimum 5-year investment time frame because that allows us, there's a lot of effort that goes into a raise. We've been doing this now for a couple of years and to get this off the ground. So we don't want to put in all that effort and then have to be looking for additional investors in the first 6 months again. So that minimum 5 years gives us time to build up equity as a group, make sure the cash flows are strong, add to the cash flows and grow the cash flows in the building, and really establish our way of doing business and operations. That doesn't mean that you can't sell your shares before 5 years if you need to exit. So if you want to sell your shares, and you can do this 4 months after you purchase or after the shares are issued, you can sell your shares to an existing investor member, or you can sell your shares and bring in a new investor member. So if you had a friend that wanted to replace you as an investor and buy your shares, then you could bring them in. And it's all with board approval, of course, but that gives you some options to exit if you need to before the 5-year mark. Redemption means that you're selling your shares back to the co-op as a whole. So that's why we need that 5 years to build up the opportunity to plan for paying investors out. And there is a limit, and it's all detailed in the offering memorandum that um, it's at the board's discretion, but there's a maximum of 10% redemption per year. So we can go higher than that but the higher than that is at the board's discretion. Below that, the board has to prepare and the co-op has to prepare that if up to 10% of the members want to exit at 5 years, we have to be ready to, with cash on hand, to pay them out. So that's what we'll need to be preparing for. Use of funds raised. So I've got the minimum and maximum raise scenario here. Minimum, we put a down payment on the building, and then the rest is financed through a mortgage. And then we have $150,000 in closing costs and $100,000 in working capital. And then with the maximum raise scenario, we put the full amount down on the building. The building's currently under contract for 8.75 million purchase price, and then $150,000 closing costs and $100,000 working capital. One thing to note is that all funds are held in trust until the building sale closes. So if for whatever reason we don't close on the building, we will return your funds to you 100%. I mentioned the RSP and TFSA eligibility. So this offering is currently open till March 2nd, 2026, and the building sale is currently closing April 30th. We have extended this a few times in the past, and I have been asked, is there an option to extend this? Possibly, but not likely much further past March 2nd. We are really pushing hard now that we're over the $2 million amount raise and halfway to our minimum. We feel like we can achieve this in this time frame, especially with the RSP season coming. Just for reference, the first 1 million, it took us about 10 months to raise. The second million took us about 2.5 months to raise. So as you build momentum, as you bring in more investors and build up your community, you gain momentum through as everybody starts bringing in their networks and sharing what this investment is about. It really starts to hockey stick, and you can start bringing in investment at a much faster rate. So, why does this matter? Well, I'll just speak to why this matters to me. I believe strongly in Alberta. I believe strongly in Edmonton. Like I mentioned, post-COVID, I feel very strongly that we need community more than ever, and that's community in all aspects of our lives, especially business and investing. I've realized from 20 years in the industry, I don't want to do this alone. I don't want to be doing real estate buildings alone. I don't want to be doing investment alone. I don't want to be building my business alone. I think the network that we're building is phenomenal as I meet each investor and what they're working on in their business and in their area of expertise. I'm just blown away by the innovation and creativity and the projects that they're working on. I think as we all get to know each other and collaborate and help each other with our respective projects, we're only going to get stronger. And especially when you look at through an investment angle, I want to invest my money locally. I don't like putting it into Wall Street and not knowing where my money is going and what it's being spent on. Like, yes, it's nice to see a return, and it's easy to see a return through investing in Wall Street, but there is that social piece of wondering what is my money actually being used for? And I like tangible investments. I like to be able to walk into the building or walk into the space that I'm invested in and see how it's impacting the people that are using it, but also see that financial return. So that's a bit of my why, and I think I spoke a little bit earlier to all of the whys of our board of directors and why they joined, and everybody has a unique story to tell. So next steps, if you're interested in investing, one of the first things to do is sign up for our investor portal. We've tried to streamline this as much as possible and partnered with DealPoint out of Calgary to have an investor portal that's online. You can go to our website or just email us and we'll send you the links. But on our website is buttons that say for Class B or Class C shares. You go there, you set up your investor profile, which is really just your email and name, contact information, and then you have access to all of our due diligence documents on the investor portal. That's our building condition report, our appraisal, our offering memorandum, our term sheet summaries, a copy of this pitch deck. And then if you decide you want to start investing, you can just literally hit a button called Invest Now, and it'll start asking you questions that as you answer them, it'll start filling out the paperwork for you. So by the time you're finished, it'll create a signable document and walk you through the signing process. And if you have any questions at all, you can set up a Zoom call with us or just email us and we will answer your questions. We've, I think, now seen almost every scenario. So of the different investment options and funds coming from different avenues and stuff. So hopefully we can get you an answer really quick. I also highly recommend touring the building. So you can email us. We also have open houses planned coming up and events coming up. So definitely make sure you're on our newsletter and have joined our newsletter so that you're getting notifications about those upcoming events. While you can tour the building anytime, on Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Just by contacting us, I find that the events are really special because a lot of our existing investors also attend those events, as well as some of our board members. So it's really an opportunity to see what kind of community that you're joining to make sure it's a right fit for you. And then, yeah, we're going to open it up to questions, just to preemptively try to answer any regular FAQs we get. I did mention how to sell shares in a co-op before the 5-year mark. And if you want to get your money out early. I mentioned what are the benefits for investors outside of Edmonton. So I kind of looked to Heather on our board. She lives, I think 5.5 hours north of Edmonton. And her story about wanting to diversify her portfolio, invest in a market that she doesn't live in, so she doesn't have to be called when the lights go out or there's a problem with the building. Because so we'll have property managers handling all of that. So it's a kind of worry-free investment for her. But then the network that she's joining is her I think main reason for joining. How does this differ from a GIC or a REIT? Because we do get asked, well, I could just invest in a GIC and get a fixed rate of return, and it is very different. So if you're just interested in the return, I would say this is not the investment for you, because we're definitely interested in returns, but we're also very much about the community that we're building, and we want a strong community, and we want people engaged in that community. So if that doesn't speak to you, then I would definitely refer you to going to a financial institution and going through the more conventional investment opportunities available. A REIT, there's a lot of similarities with us and a REIT, but one of the biggest differences is with a REIT, you don't get to give input. You don't get an annual general meeting where you get to vote and potentially even volunteer to be on the board or be part of one of our committees. You don't get a say on what are the next buildings we're going to purchase. You don't get a say on the strategic plans. So it's a lot more hands-on than what a REIT might offer. What is the next addition to the portfolio? So that is entirely dependent on our investment community. Once we close on this building and have reached this target goal, we'll be creating a 5-year strategic plan with everyone's input and be looking at criteria like where is our investment mainly coming from? Where are the growing and stabilized markets in Alberta? Where, people will probably be bringing projects to us as potential investments, and we'll have a set of criteria to vet those projects against. So we'll be looking at all of that and then bringing a draft strategy back to the members for input and feedback, and then finally